I'll just pause. Again, welcome everybody to the official launch of Pahinga. I'm here with my friend, it's more than friend, sister friend, collaborator, Jamie Cardenas and Robyn Rodriguez. Before we officially kind of start our conversation for today, I wanted to be able to make a land acknowledgement. It's so important for all of us to really acknowledge the places we are. In this case, we are in unceded Eastern Pomo and Lake Miwok land. As many of us know, there continues to be ongoing violence, atrocities committed against the Palestinian people, by the Israeli government, but also by Zionist settlers. We recognize that what's happening in Palestine is very much a consequence of settler colonialism, but we also recognize that we ourselves, if we are coming together in this space, anywhere in North America, we are living on land that was seized through white settler colonialism. And part of our work, we're very committed to processes of decolonization, whether it's within ourselves, but also in the societies in which we live. So we want to acknowledge that we are able to be here with you today because we are on land that has been tended for thousands of years by the Eastern Pomo and the Lake Miwok. And we're in the Amado Kaya Healing House. We're able to hold space for healing here and enjoy the beautiful natural wonder around us because of all of the work that they've done in tending this land. And we also very committed to unsettling, a process of unsettling and not being complicit with settler colonialism by not just doing this work of acknowledgement, but also making a new kind of relationship, being in right relationship with the land. So we wanted to start our conversation today first with that. The other thing we wanted to be able to do is call in our ancestors. We're going to be talking about our project, the Pahinga project, Pahinga meaning rest. And we wanted to be able to call our ancestors into this space. We recognize there's just been a series of losses in our community, many of them very, very premature, unexpected. And we recognize that many of our community members, their lives have been taken away prematurely as a result of living in the system, a system that wants to extract from our labor, a system where rest is not even allowed to our people, and that has meant premature death or really horrible, horrific deaths. So we're calling in all of our beloveds who've passed. A really beloved, important recent loss was Mr. Ray, who was beloved in the Filipinx community for all of the work he's done as a cultural worker and artist. We honor him today and bring him into the space. I bring into this space also my uncle-in-law, my father-in-law, my husband's eldest uncle, who was the anchor for their family here in America, who passed, my mom, who passed just a year ago, my late son Amado, his cousin, my nephew, Kali. I know that Jamie has beloveds to call into the space as well.
Yes, I wanted to honor my dear uncle, one of the first cultural bearers in my family to really share the power of our storytelling. This goes out to the entire Cardenas family, bringing in my dear uncle, Ernesto Galinato Cardenas Sr. He left this plane a few days ago, so I feel his presence very greatly. And this conversation is dedicated to him as well.
Did you have others that you wanted to bring in?
Yes, I wanted to also bring in my grandmothers into this space. A lot of the work I do with Magpie Alchemy is very much connected to my matrilineal line. I'm bringing in our Mama Mary, Maria Asuncion Galinato Cardenas, and my mother's mother, grandmother, Victorina Borge Pesquisa.
Thank you. And if you feel, if you've called to share in the chat, if you'd like to call in ancestors that you want to bring into the space today, a lot of what we hope that our Pahinga project will do is offer healing, not just for ourselves, our peers, our chosen family, but also that we offer healing intergenerationally to those who follow us, and also healing for those who've passed prematurely because they've not been allowed sufficient time, permission, the right to rest. So if you have ancestors you'd like to call into the space, please do that in your heart silently, or if you'd like to share it in the chat. Thank you for holding space with us in that way. And I wanted to be able to now call Robyn de Guzman, who is going to lead us in a grounding exercise. So let me just introduce Robyn, my name twin. It's always fun to see a Robyn with a Y. So Rob, good to bring you in this space. Robyn has recently found joy in collaborating with Surrendered Healing's pop-up spiritual services around the San Francisco Bay Area through songwriting, music, and movement. She is a mother of two and a dance and Tai Chi teacher with a professional theater career spanning New York City, the United States, and Canada, in the national tours of Beauty and the Beast. Is it Elf? Yes. Elf the Musical, yeah, and Miss Saigon. Robyn helped develop the after-school musical theater program at the Young Wings School, a public elementary school in Manhattan's Chinatown, and taught in the Fine and Performing Arts Department at Marymount Manhattan Colleges for 3 years. Robyn's solo show, Enough, this is exciting, will make its professional debut at the AAPI Actors Studio in San Diego next week. So please look out for her at the Moth Theater in Berkeley this May. I love this. I resonated with this. She has given up on trying to like brown rice. Love you some brown, but not so much brown rice. I've developed a liking for brown rice. I'm not gonna lie, but for it, there's a specialness to white rice.
There is. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm here on Ohlone land. I want to call in my Lola, who I'll be singing a song that I wrote today. And my Lola, I keep being reminded that she was a songwriter. My mom was recently in Borongan, Eastern Samar, where my Lola was, and sent me a video of one of my late Lola songs being sung at Mass. And it's taken me a long time to get back to that part of me. So I want to thank you. A lot of my healers are here, people I've collaborated with, including my cousin Earl. What's up, Earl? Earl is my hilot and first cousin, actually. So today we're going to move to the whatever your ability, or maybe you're going to listen. I'm standing. I find that's the best way for me. And I just want you to call in something that came to you naturally, that brought you maybe a moment of joy or clarity, or maybe something just beautiful in nature. And then I want you to think of something that you need to let go of. And let that fall away easily. I'm gonna put these lyrics in the chat, and I'll also say them out loud for those of you on your phones, because I know it's hard to see the chat on your phones. It is. I welcome what is mine to keep. Let go of what does not serve me. Bring healing to my past, present, and future. And with this, I want it to be very natural and really let like spirit divine do all the work for you. And our movement is going to be, I welcome what is mine to keep. You're gonna bring that moment that brought you joy into your body, really let it settle there. You're gonna brush off, let go of what does not serve me, and just bring your palms to the sky. Bring healing to my past, present, and future. I'm gonna sing it a few times, so you can sing it along with me if you so choose, and then I will just sing it a few times for you. I welcome what is mine to keep. Let go of what does not serve me. Bring healing to my past, present, and future. All right, now I'll just let you receive it. I'll sing it to you a few times and let it just come to you very easily. I welcome what is mine to keep. Let go of what does not serve me. Bring healing to my past, present, and future. I welcome what is mine to keep. Let go of what does not serve me. Bring healing to my past, present, and future. I welcome what is mine to keep. Let go of what does not serve me. Bring healing to my past, present, and future. Thank you for having me, and congratulations on an amazing, awesome partnership.
Thank you so much, Robyn. I mean, how appropriate. I welcome what is mine to keep. Let go of what does not serve me. And that's actually how we started before we even joined the Zoom. We did precisely that. And bringing healing, of course, is what we want to do to our past, present, and future. Absolutely. Such a great way to open this space. Thank you so much, Robyn. And again, welcome. I'm Robyn Rodriguez, Jamie Cardenas, sister friends, soulmates, collaborators on the Pahinga project. And you know, Pahinga for us, of course, Pahinga means rest. And our collaboration is a combination of things. Jamie, of course, is just so gifted and offers us so much in terms of her knowledge and her wisdom and her magic, really, in plant medicine. And so together we are going to kind of we're thinking about some self-care offerings. And Jamie will talk a little bit about more more. She has far more knowledge about all of the medicines in our matrilineal lines, but that's what we know what we want to center in the self-care products. But also we want to really hold collective rest space or spaces of retreat, and especially here at the Amado Okaya Healing House. And the collective rest really comes from lots of different, this whole project comes from lots of different places. It builds up from a previous sisterly collaboration, and you know, really extends that kind of energy in a new kind of way with this collaboration. So I want to actually kind of, as part of the process, to dive deeper into this collaboration, just turn to Jamie. Jamie, maybe tell everybody kind of about Hinga, which is kind of the very the project that we're kind of building off of, right? Is kind of why we even have that slash, right? It's Pahinga means to breathe, or to rest, and then Hinga means to breathe. And yeah, I mean, the Hinga project actually is where we first met. So Jamie, if you can just share with folks like what the Hinga project was. It's such a meaningful and important project.
Yeah, I have to give it up to our dear sister, Samay. She was the one that called me into the Hinga project, which was a beautiful project of ritual and dance and poetry that honors the sacred grief that was happening in the year of 2020 with just, our community experiencing so much loss. Samay uplifted this project by engaging with so many people in the community. Actually, we have people in this discussion here. Earl was someone I met through the Hinga project. And that's actually how I came to meet Robyn. Robyn's son, Amato, was honored in this project. And, it was through Samay she was kind of like whispering to me, like, I think you're really going to love Robyn. You all have to connect. So this is really just a continuation of this really divine and sacred sisterhood that I feel as if needs to be modeled in our community. There is a lot of pain and grief, and I think we're all on this healing journey of learning how to break these generational curses and learning how to reparent ourselves. And the truth of the matter is we need support. Some of my own teachers have shared with me, healing happens in community. Healing happens together. So this is kind of like another beacon in our community where we want to really shine that out and say, like, no, we're here. We need to be here for each other. We need to question some of the things that are happening, especially when it comes to rest and our relationship to rest. Why do we feel so guilty to do it? So.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jamie. For myself, I feel like when I think about where the journey towards this project, I was just so grateful to be in connection with Jamie through Hinga, because as Jamie had shared, it was both a collaboration which included really healing self-care offerings that were really important for the moment of the pandemic for so many of us, and also Samay, right, had directed, wrote, choreographed a short film, Hinga, which was meant as a kind of collective offering, actually for all of us who were grieving, to really invite breath, Hinga. So it was really meant to be a collective offering, and yet at the same time, it was so deeply personal, as Jamie shared. One of the artists whose poetry was a centerpiece of the film, Amihan, who is my niece and Amato's kind of chosen cousin, had written a poem after his passing that kind of became a centerpiece of the film. And being able to have this beautiful offering that was both collective and personal for me, being able to connect with Jamie. Jamie has been so much a part of and the community of my own healing journey. And thinking about rest, I think probably only began, frankly, after Amato passed. I was just talking about with Jamie, one of the journal entries I had to myself is that, growing up, I had no role models at all of people who ever practiced rest. And neither did I feel like, even for most of my life, if not almost all of it, have I been in a role where I could rest. I was the firstborn in America, not just the firstborn to my parents, but the firstborn in the US. I really feel like all my parents' hopes and dreams were pinned to me as the panganay. My name is Robyn because my dad's name is Robyn. He didn't have a son, but he had me. And I invested all these hopes in me as the eldest daughter. I have a younger brother. So just I was born already to have work roles as the eldest, as the daughter. And, later on when I became a wife and mother, again, there's so much about these roles within the context of like patriarchy, right? There's no possibility for rest. And then you add to that even the role of teacher, or even or educator, which I became, and or community organizer. Just there's like no space for rest. Whether it was, you know, prescribed for certain roles, right? Like these external forces that define femininity in certain ways, or define certain kinds of roles in certain ways, or even things that I kind of chose for myself. Like when I became really active as an activist or community organizer, there was also ways I felt like, well, I enjoy privilege. And I think a lot of people kind of resonate with that now too, with what's happening in Palestine. You see this horrible loss, you feel like we enjoy a certain privilege. So therefore we have to extend ourselves. Even if the extension is by choice and in service of others that you care about, as a manifestation of the things you value in the world, justice, liberation, you don't even allow yourself rest there, you know? And so, I mean, you know, when I lost Amato, like my eldest son, it was the first time in my life, like I was forced to rest. There was no way, absolutely no way I could possibly just come back from the loss of my son, and then loss of my son at a time of COVID, when all of the practices around mourning that and collective grief that, you know, you ordinarily activate were not available. And so I was really forced to do this work of rest, and in the process kind of reflect on rest and why I had, but up until that point, I was 48 maybe when I lost Amato a couple, 4 years ago now. It was to actually realize for the first time that I'd never had a chance to stop in 48 years. I think is really what started this journey, the film making me think about it. And then of course, Black activist, healer, and writer, Trisha, and artist, Trisha Hersey's book, Rest is Resistance, if you haven't already read it, has definitely kind of gave me more of a language to think about rest, and that stuff we've kind of really processed together, Jamie and I. And so I think one of the ways I wanted to also share, we're debuting a video actually about my not just my journey of getting to this place of holding space for rest, but also just a little some background on this healing house where we hope to hold our collective rest sessions. But I'm going to just share this short, it's a very, very short video to provide just a little bit of kind of background on these spaces, or this particular space, and part of the journey around rest. So let me just share this quickly. So let's see. You could just give me a moment, everyone. Okay. I will screen share in just a second. Oops. One of the things in embracing rest is Jamie and I, we did not spend time prepping the program for the show. We ate big old bowls of oxtail nilaga, spent time catching up with one another. We've had a really challenging few weeks separately. And so, perfection is not what it's about. It's about community. And so, yeah, thank you all. If the flow is kind of a little bit choppy here. So let me share just a little bit of this. Boy, where am I now? Is it screen share?
I think it is. There we go.
Okay. Wait, sorry. You know if this sounds okay? I'm looking at you, Robyn, so just give me. Is it okay? Your smile is so infectious, even as a baby. lighting up the room wherever you go. Your energy is so radiant and became magnetic to so many people. When you were diagnosed with severe hearing loss, we noticed you became more aware of being different. You believed that every person, regardless of their race or background, deserved to feel heard and loved. Your love for people and drive to learn about the world led you towards your passion for social justice. You insisted on going back to the Philippines to help build homes for families. When we got the unfortunate news of your passing, our hearts broke. It hasn't been an easy journey. There have been moments when the pain of losing you felt too heavy to bear. But it's the love and support of this community that keeps me going. Seeing the positive impact that we can still make together is what gives me hope for the future. Your love for the community has given me the strength to create a space where our community feels supported and loved to start their healing journey. Your legacy lives on in this house. Breath into that. Really, I guess just wanted to spend the rest of the time just a conversation, as the short video kind of captures, at least for me, kind of the beginning of my own journey, to really thinking about rest and the importance of supporting and holding space for collective rest. And Jamie's work with Hinga, which became the foundation for now Pahinga. But Jamie, I mean, talk us through just the work that you do. So much of your work is about really understanding our ancestral medicines and sharing that with our community. Oh my gosh, I was just sorry, I have to call her in. That's my friend from high school. I was just telling you about. I brought you into this space earlier, Rose. So I've been thinking about you. Sorry, Rose. Talk about sisterhood. I've known Rose since we were 15 years old. Yeah, I think so. No worries. You just got here right on time. Always.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you guys aren't familiar, I run a apothecary called Magpie Alchemy. It's named after my daughter Maggie. And really it was kind of a discovery for myself of like trying to find tools as a disabled Filipinx person. I think those are two identities that go up against each other. And I was trying to find ways to survive in this very difficult world by trying to tap into other healing modalities. I am someone who is now disabled because of the medical industrial complex. And as I started to learn more about our ancestral medicines by, asking questions and, trying to excavate parts of our culture, I felt like I had to share it with community, and it kind of like came into being through Magpie Alchemy as like a business. But I had to kind of change how I was operating things because, you know, as we're experiencing in this world, it's fucked up. And I feel like a lot of our diseases and our ailments, and you know, even things like high blood pressure and diabetes, like these are things that have just are now part of the Filipino identity, kind of like a rite of passage. Like, oh, you know, now I'm rounding 40, so those are kind of the diseases that are now part of my language, and I'm starting to question, like, why do we have to accept that? So, you know, Magpie Alchemy started as a way also to find answers around like chronic pain and eczema, for example. Eczema is something that's very prominent in our community. I don't think people realize how debilitating it is. It's not just like a aesthetic like skin condition. Our skin is like the largest organ in our body. It's also our first line of defense for our immune system. And the way that I feel as if like Filipinos have been treated in the medical industry, you know, on top of also Pinays, especially being the front line of the medical force, like our right to rest is a form of repatriations. And it breaks my heart that we feel so much shame and guilt. Even the idea of like, I'm going to rest so that I can do more. Like, no, we should just rest just to lie the fuck down and reclaim what has been taken from us. Yeah, so you know, that's kind of the start of it, is just like really trying to find different avenues for our people, and to remind each other. Like I'm so elated that I have my dear sister in the audience today. I'm able to model it because she models it for me. Her name is Heather. She's also a disabled Pinay. I mean, she has been this force that like reminds me every day, like, sis, did you have water? Even that like simple question. So I feel like this is kind of like a big lighthouse, a big project that me and Robyn are also trying to shine for the other Pinays in the community to say like, it's okay. We're gonna do it. We're gonna take y'all along with us, and we're not gonna have any qualms about it. So
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's why it was kind of important for me to just share a little bit with the kind of the video that kind of captures both a motto, what his loss triggered for me. And I think one of the things was for me, you know, after he died, it was this big revelation. I was like, oh my God, in all of my life, I have never really rested because I was never allowed to, and I didn't allow myself to. And it was hard to think that it took having to lose my son to finally have permission to stop. And you know, and it wasn't just that. I think too, you know, I think it was also COVID, right? I mean, for all the things that COVID was, or the pandemic was and still is, I think there was this moment too, these bright moments, right, during COVID, because it forced us to stop. It forced us to reimagine that our lives could be different. And I think for me, you know, that just everything, that whole moment, that it happened all at the same time. It was the pandemic. I lost a motto 2020, you know, just feeling like it was really time to commit to something different. And for folks who don't already know me, I come here in this space now as the land steward of Remagination Farm, which was a move that we took as part of a radical shift that happened after Amato passed, and after the end of lockdown, because we're still in a pandemic. COVID is still ravaging our communities in lots of different ways in our bodies. You know, the end of lockdown at least. But I come to you, you know, as a land steward, but prior to that was an educator at a major university, and a scholar. And yeah, I think that these, between COVID, opening up these new possibilities of ways of living, the need to shift after I lost my son, and you'd said about modeling, I think one of the things I felt like I had to model after I lost Amato, was kind of vulnerability in my grief process. I mean, some of it was that I needed to grieve publicly because I didn't have like any of it, like the things like the novenas afterwards where everybody comes to do the rosary and bring food. We didn't have any of it. None of it was available. Couldn't have a proper funeral or any of the things that you need, that are important, that our cultures have that come out of our cultures to provide collective support, right, for people in a time of grief. None of that was available. But I think it also made me realize the importance of modeling, because there's still an impulse, even during COVID, right, to get back. I mean, we're still in that moment, right? Like, and even with grieving, right? Like when you think about government policies, people can't take time off to grieve. I mean, there's just such little time that you're allowed, a time to grieve, formally, even if the fact, even though grief, just grips you, it's not something you get over. It will be with you forever, and it just manifests at different times. Our systems aren't built for us to even mourn loss. You're just supposed to get back to things, in ways that feel like really just wrong, especially when you want to honor people who you love so dearly. And so, yeah, just this need to kind of, this desire to want to hold space. I think one thing too, I've been sharing with Jamie, and a lot of this project isn't just, it's to hold space, for communities of color, women of color. I think our first step, really, we're trying to hold space, especially for Pinay mamas. It's, I think, just a space we feel like we really feel a need for. I mean, and not any just bio mamas, but people, Pinays who've taken on mama roles, because you could be a mama because you're the ate. You could be a mama because you're tita. You could be a mama because of a role you play. But there's so many ways that we are mamas, and we don't have enough space to be able to hold one another, to give ourselves a space of just rest, to take a breather, to even have fun, And so, so we do have this vision of holding collective rest spaces, sessions here at the Maracay Healing House. But there's also a bunch of self-care products. You have to tell them, Jamie, because they're so cute.
Well, so off the top, we kind of came together and created a lineup of self-care products that, I think people may not have an understanding that, like, when you're using these balms or lotions or soaps, it really is a chance for you to kind of slow down, to make that ritual for yourself, but also the relationships that we have to our bodies. I know I was someone who was raised where I didn't really have discussions like that. And I feel like that's kind of what's missing, even navigating the medical system. It's kind of compartmentalized into like these little systems, but none of them are actually connecting the whole body. And some part of my research is like, even the inflammatory response of like eczema, it's recommended that you take topicals, or you change your diet. But what about what's happening in our bodies that is disconnecting us and causing this huge inflammatory response? I think it also is a connection and actually a disconnection of that we're far from our homes, from our homelands. I kind of liken it to like us being tropical plants in foreign soil, and we're trying to survive and wondering why we feel like shit. So these plants are kind of a way for those of us in the diaspora to have a piece of our home, whether it be through the plants that live in the Philippines, like lemongrass is a plant that comes to mind. I have a very deep connection to the plant malunggay or morunggay. That's a very grounding plant. It's a plant that my grandmother worked with a lot, and I used to get so annoyed She'd try to feed it to me all the time.
Mhm.
But now it's something that I rely on. And every time I work with the plant, I think of her. As I started kind of digging deep into the research, I've also discovered that it's such a deeply grounding plant. It's morongai plants that actually hold up in the deep tap roots. It holds up mountainsides. So if we think about plants in this way, not just about the nutrition, but even just like the spiritual aspect, having those energies in us, those light codes, and what it would mean to actually like apply them to our bodies and take the time. So like the first one that I'm thinking of is like I have a soak that I'm formulating called cup cup. Cup cup is a word that my grandmother would say. My uncle Ernie, I'm gonna actually bring him up because it was never like hug me up. It was like come embrace me. Like even that like language choice, embrace me now. So cup cup is a word that they would say. Basically, it's like what I would consider to be like a koala hug. Like they would just completely embrace me. So we named a soak that I formulated as a response to just how much COVID has impacted our community. A lot of us actually, I feel like it's kind of taboo to even bring up COVID again. But this discussion of how long COVID is affecting us, I wanted to make something for that as a medicine to help with that. So I have the cup soak that basically is like a mineral rich soak that is vitamin C rich. It has a plant in there called immortel. Another word for the plant is called everlasting. So it's a very healing plant. And then it's also magnesium rich, which is a natural muscle relaxer. So layering all those medicines together, and then the ritual of a hot bath, I feel like it really will force you to take that rest and to absorb all the medicine. That's one of it. Another one is called Tabi Tabi Po, which was amazing because it's we're working with a cedar tree right outside of the model healing house. I wish we can show you the view, but we are right on top of Clear Lake, which is the oldest
lake in North America.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, these are like sacred waters. And if you think about what the cedar tree is doing, unfortunately, because of colonization and all the terrible violent things that have happened to the Pomo people, the Clear Lake is actually considered to be now toxic, right?
Yeah, well, there are lots of toxins. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's kind of like a reflection of our own bodies here. But the magical part of this tree is its role in, the mycelium is like we can actually now get the waters, the sacred waters of Clear Lake through the distillation process of the cedar tree. And if you were to talk with many different tribes across Turtle Island, the cedar tree is a sacred plant, a sacred medicine. So that is another offering that we have in the Pahinga lineup, just to kind of have that like breath, I kind of describe the scent of cedar as like the first time you walk into the forest and you take that deep breath in, it's very earthy and you kind of have this like water smell. That's what you get from Tabi Tabi Po.
But tell them about why Tabi Tabi Po.
It's
such a great name.
Yeah, so we're settlers here on Pomo land. So it's also the translation is like asking for permission. So it's kind of creating this ritual before you spray. You have to kind of say it and ask for permission. I think that's kind of also tying back to the decolonial process of being in right relation and understanding that we are settlers here. So that's kind of connecting it to the plant medicine offering.
The rest bomb.
And the rest bomb. So that's something else too that I just have to give a shout out to my community and the clients that I've had over the years with Magpie. I formulated several bombs in the past. One of them was called Maginhawa, which is also breath, right?
Maginhawa. I feel like it's health or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
I formulated that for the Hinga project. But seeing the response from even like people my age sharing it with their elders, and it's basically like a way for us to have discussions across the generations by saying like, here's a balm, you can use it just like how our elders use like Vicks, which is such a loving act if you think about it. anytime I put Vicks on, or even just the bombs that I make, I envision my grandmother's hands. So it's another way to kind of extend that practice. But we formulated, we came up with the ingredients to kind of tie in all of the like mamas in our lives. So there's also morongay in there. There's ginger, lemongrass, also hemp derived CBD, which, you know, the discussion of like cannabis use in our community, there's a lot of stigma, but it is a medicinal plant. And I believe in kind of my research, I want to share that, like, why should we feel guilt and shame for leading on medicines that come from the earth? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so excited for these offerings. And of course, you know, the offerings aren't meant necessarily to just be enjoyed alone, right? I think part of what I love about what Jamie does with her work, you know, is that it's always, all of her work is always for and by the community. I mean, I really feel like for me, you know, Jamie is our modern day, sort of our contemporary medicine woman, you know, really with all these deep knowledges of all these medicines from our ancestral homeland, but not even just there. I mean, you just have such a deep well of knowledge of all plants that I'm always amazed. Every time I go on a walk with Jamie, I'm like, I learned something absolutely new. But, you know, I think that what I love about Jamie, and I think what this work is meant to be, is I think we're also trying very much to push up against this industry. You know, there is a very massive wellness industry that, you know, it promotes kind of self-care, but oftentimes without the kind of that critique of really, well, what is it that we're needing care from? You know, we're not trying to engage in self-care just so that we're equipped to get up again, to grind, right, and to participate and like be on the hamster wheel for a system that was never built for us. You know, I think what I love about this work is that this is self-care that's also meant to really deeply address, and Jamie does it all the time, not just in what she puts into her products, how she talks about the products, how she shares her learnings. And that is that we have to engage in these practices because of these systems that have robbed us of being able to live really full lives. I mean, it's like you said, we've normalized like, oh, Filipinos and diabetes, or
Yes.
you know what I mean, or certain kinds of notions about Filipino health that, you know, that kind of blame the victim, right? That it's because, you know, you don't eat right, you don't exercise enough. When in fact, you know, a lot of what's happening is folks in our community are grinding so much. That's all they do, that food and turning to maybe really rich food as a form of comfort, maybe part of the self-medicating in a kind of way that ends up being damaging for us, not to mention the damage that the grind is doing to our bodies. So, you know, these self-care products are really, I think, meant to also, you know, be an opportunity for us to do this work of reflection. And, you know, the big piece of this Pahinga project is these collective rest spaces, you know, and this is, I think, where we directly really, at least I feel like I was really inspired by Tricia Hersey's book and these images of these collective rest sessions that her NAP ministry would host. And I'll share these resources. Hopefully we have emails for everybody here. But resources on the things that we mentioned from Hinga, Same, of course, your website, the Remagination Farm, also Tricia Hersey's work, but, you know, being able to kind of just hold space for women. In particular, I think, you know, we think about women of color or femmes in particular, because that's the census oftentimes, it's those kinds of people who are most not allowed to rest. But this first round, we really wanted to hold space for Pinay Mamas. So for our inaugural rest sessions, and then after that kind of extend them. But the idea is to hold space. And so we're thinking of like groups of 4 to 6 women, chosen fam, people with some kind of intimate relationship with one another. So, you know, whatever happens in the space is something that can be carried on beyond, so that we can, you know, continue to be there as a source of support, barangay in the best kind of way, as family in the best ways that that means. And so we're really, really excited about holding space for that. And I'm just looking at that time, and as much as I'm trying to resist the time and the way it colonizes, I also want to honor time and the time people might want to have for the rest of their Sunday afternoon. If folks want to continue on, if you're not especially excited about the silver wall, but you know, you're invited to stay and linger a little bit with us to talk more about our process, to hear from you too about what you're seeking, what resonates. But you know, this has been a great opportunity to share space for a little bit, to introduce a little bit about kind of this collaboration. And yeah, but you know, so totally okay if you need to sign off now. But if folks are okay for saying we're going to stay because we got lots to say, and if folks have anything too that you want to kind of share, that something about this conversation is resonating with you, please share in the chat, or if you wanted to go off, get on the you know, unmute yourselves, please do so. But yeah, we're excited. Hope you're excited too. Oh, I should share it before everybody signs off. The sign-in sheet. Hold on. Sorry. I gotta share the sign-in sheet. Just give me a second for those of you who are still there. Okay. I'll share the signed-in sheet in the chat for folks who are interested in all of it. Wait, sorry. There we go. Okay, so there it is. Can't wait to order. Yeah, but I mean, for folks who are still wanting to talk, hi, Rose. Rose, I told Jamie all about you. And I don't know.
I'm excited.
Remember, you had sent this to me like a while ago, the Bayaba smudge bundle. I actually had not opened it and used it yet. I decided to bring you into this space by smudging with that with Jamie. We wanted to connect sister energy. And that's
I love that.
yeah. So thank you.
So I missed it. Did you talk about a little bit at the end? You said about having like the 4 to 6 women, or mamas gathering together and stuff. Is that something you both are thinking about doing and wanting to plan up, or
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That is absolutely what we want to be able to do. We're thinking maybe, I mean, hopefully this is something that women are able to do, especially the mamas, but having something around Mother's Day, which is actually also around Jamie's birthday.
That's right.
And Jamie actually shares a birthday with a model, which is around Mother's Day weekend. But we thought that that would be a really great weekend to have the inaugural retreat. And yeah, we're thinking 4 to 6 people, really intimate, but really ideally with a group of like of women who have a kind of connection with one another, right? Because then that allows, I think, for us to be able to come into the space with support of people who are already part of our support networks, and then exit the space with sustained support so that we can continue to, yeah. Sorry, I just noticed in the chat just the sign-in form, and thank you. I think Erin, you might have reshared it. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think the initial link went to the admin side. So I think you might want to double check to see that the questions are still the questions.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that, Erin. But yeah, thanks for the question, Rose. That's the plan. And we definitely have fun ideas. Oh my God, you have to tell them about how we want to hold that space. Yeah, you tell them.
Well,
fun.
we are imagining, haha, we are reimagining, you know, kind of what we get in terms of like medicine from our own families without maybe some of the like triggering dynamics. So we're envisioning like food, karaoke, a way that we can invite play, because you know this whole idea of like talking about like living our ancestors' wildest dreams. I think it is actually rest and play, and you know, I also think there's some medicine in just cackling with your kin, loud and mouths wide open, and
On the floor.
slapping each
Slapping.
other. So
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's one thing, Jamie and I think this is definitely something I feel like I also share with Rose, who's on here, is cackling, like belly aching laughter. Always like on the floor, slapping, crying. That is such great medicine. I love that. When I feel like I can laugh like that with another sister, I feel like there's I'm just myself. I'm in my authentic, you know, kind of, yeah. I feel like I'm being as authentic as possible, you know, or as I can possibly be. And I just love how it feels in my body, to like cackle. And it's like, it's a cackle.
it is a cackle. It comes
Like
from
that.
another
We
place.
want a lot of that.
Yeah.
So, you know, and yeah, I love that Jamie brought that in, because I think a lot of I think we build on also the relationship we formed over the last few years. All the joy we get out of getting on the mic to sing karaoke, which actually like I grew up with as a witness to, but I often felt shamed for if I couldn't sing well enough. So, you know, Robyn, you got that though. In terms of beautiful singing voice and performance. And you know, sometimes some of the anxiety and shame around karaoke growing up for me, because I didn't start karaoke till I was out of the house, you know.
Same.
But then it would still bring back all those lovely memories to a family, and sometimes feeling like, dang, I wish I had participated. But also for me, I want to do line dancing.
Oh,
I love that. That's like an honor to my mama, who is always trying to dance. And I love line dancing. I like the coordination. I like everybody going the same direction.
yeah, being in sync with one another.
Definitely food.
Yeah.
Brown rice for those who want it. And non-white brown rice for those who opt into that. But also journaling, you know, being in nature, being outside. I think the things we might expect from other kinds of retreats, but I think we definitely wanted to bring like something that's also distinctively for us, Pinay, that allows us to also heal those parts of our lives as Pinay daughters and sisters that were also not easy, that we're still in the process of healing.
Yeah. And you know, I think there's a lot of talk too about like being in touch with our nervous system. There's a lot of, you know, hypervigilance in the Filipino community. So, you know, we imagine like what that does to our minds and our bodies. And I feel a lot of people don't realize the voice is the gateway to the nervous system. So if you can stay in touch with that and feel confident in what you're singing, what you're saying, having the like liberation to show up without any shame, like it's all connected.
Yeah, and definitely being okay of being in our bodies, right? Because I feel like that was one thing I was reflecting on today. Like just we don't, there's never a time to rest. Like even just, you know, so much is of you know, the focus on, you know, and I feel like this is especially happening for me now, you know, like I'm 51 now, you know, and I don't participate in conversations about like Botox or other kinds of like But I've been witness to like my sisters like talking very seriously about getting work. And just even the notion of getting work or having to put in the work, it's like into beauty regimes, right? Because of whatever is expected around, women, and, also just like what's celebrated, right? In terms of women and our bodies and beauty, right? And there's just ways like, even especially for a mama, right? It's like you become a mama. There's all these shifting notions of what the mama is. Like mama is like asexual, or a mama is matron, and so just those pleasurable aspects of even one, like being a woman, like that's not even allowed for us either. And then the things that are supposed to be pleasurable, like about like being feminine, is also,
Right. Yeah.
Like there was this one woman, I remember, I don't know, it's been years ago, this sociologist did a study, or just it was sort of a self-reflection on just beauty and time and all of it. And so she basically pledged to not look at herself in the mirror once, ever, for a whole year. And she tracked like how much time it gave her to not ever look in the mirror, just her general sense of well-being. And it was, I have to find that book, but I often think about that, like when I think about also just, women around me talking about getting work or putting in the work, because we got to fight like the aging process. We got to fight, do all that stuff. So, Ooh, let me see. I have some things, and I just saw Robyn. He'll do an Eminem song. Oh, okay. My go-tos are always like SWB.
Yeah, I like to make you uncomfortable. Maybe some pressure.
Oh yeah, Pony. We did Pony thing together. Okay, had to go. Oh, other offering and other nice. Okay, thank you. Oh, so sweet. Oh, yay. Okay, so people are kind of slowly going, but that's okay. We'll probably linger for just a little bit more, maybe like 4 more minutes. 4:45. Let's see. What is it? We have, I can relate to the story about looking in the mirror. I shaved my head a couple times as a teenager, and the amount of time it gave me back. Yeah. So stopping things I was radicalizing. The little things, it's real, Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. We'll just stay for a little bit longer, I guess. What do you think?
Okay. That sounds good.
Robyn, I feel like you've been wanting to unmute yourself for a while. Go for it.
I just want to hang out right now.
Yeah. I know that's why we just rolled in. I see roses outside. I've been thinking about you, girl. Don't worry. So much to catch up on.
Well, and I just appreciate being able to have this kind of space where it feels like like I think you both had said before too, about having like-minded people around. Because I think about the impact that not having a safe space to process these things together with, when we're in the middle of this like raw state, and how we can transfer that on and giving that to our children and to our families, into the people most closely around us. Like I know for myself, I don't have all of those kind of connections, and I'm just in this like beginning part of this journey of understanding this relationship I have with the land, or to my homeland, or to something bigger than what I physically see around me in this moment, right? Like to actually acknowledge the bigger picture, because that was stuff that we grew up with shame around. If we tried to, punishment to try to go outside of the standard construct of our, religions or our families, growing up in America, just trying to get by without as little, trying to do it through the trauma and everything. So to be able to have a safe space like this to work it together and to actually, you know, I mean, I appreciate that, Jamie, too. I'm gonna look at the products list. I got to see that, but to be able to experience that too, and to know. I love that you talked about the maranga because you know I remember hearing about that and just learning too that it's not just something that we take from, but that it gives life to and holding up a mountain, right? Like that makes so much more sense of why it has that power and that there is something so simple that we can experience and take part in. And I think too that I think that's the difference with like the whole wellness industry. There's so much about that focuses on extraction as opposed to giving back, which is what I thought was really cool too, that you know you both had talked about was being able to have and be in right relationship with the land, which also involves our part in taking care of it and being good stewards and giving. So I don't know, that feels really good. So I'm excited. I'll fill in the form.
Yay, yay. That's no, thank you for that, Rose. And I just have to just say how I am to be in space, not just with Jamie, who I've made it who I've had a relationship with now for a couple of years, but to be able to be on this healing journey with a woman that I have known for over half of my life, actually probably what 2/3 of our lives. I mean, it's such a rare gift. I didn't keep in touch with a lot of friends in high school. Things change, right? Like you connect with them and it's only reunion and you're only looking at the past, and it's hard to your futures and your presence and futures aren't very intertwined. And I'm just so grateful that I have Rose, who I feel like we've been growing together, and I love it. I love that we can hold each other in this way. And one of the beautiful things that I've been able to do with Rose that I hope to also take from our work together, and I'm hoping to hold space with Rose too, because I know that we talked a lot too about what it means that we have this role, or had this role in my case, because now both my parents are passed, but having to be a mother to our own parents, what that looks like. And I know, Jamie, we've talked about this too. And girl, let's talk menopause, okay? I don't know what's up with my body right now, okay? I'm trying to hold some space for ladies who's kind of coming up on the change. Because it is fucking me up, okay? And I don't think I realized it. I mean, I did, but I was like, God, I've been going through so much shit. The world, COVID, losing people. I literally could not discern whether what I've been going through is the things happening in my life or my body. And I'm realizing, for sure, I'm able to better see how my body is also part of what I'm also dealing with, and I can't even talk about, I know, who do I talk about menopause with? I'm itchy. Is that menopause? My stomach is fucking bloated all the time. I'm pregnant. Oh, it's just a real thing, y'all.
Yeah.
I really, yes, it's really, it's hard. I can't discern. And I wish I had somebody I could just be real about, because I think my mom had migraines and disappeared in the room all the time, and that was menopause. But nobody ever talked about it. My dad didn't give her permission. In fact, I was thinking about all the ways you're not fucking allowed to rest. My dad would make my mom feel bad. Oh, your mom is always sleeping all the time. Yeah. She had migraines and she worked a shit shift, as a nurse. So yeah, I don't even know who to ask. Can we hold space for menopause, though, Rose?
It needs to be done.
No shame. I mean, it's real. Talking about our pain is not something no, it's true. We have no language for it. Yeah.
I mean, that's a dear friend of mine. We have this discussion a lot, it feels like we're up against so much, even just trying to get care. And even that same discussion and trying to make the discernment of okay, the sensation I'm feeling in my body, is this just grief? Is it because the world is fucked up, or is there something else that's happening? And we're not really given the space or the time to even slow down enough to say, like, how do we even parse this out?
Yeah.
And who do we trust? You know, you'll get different opinions from different doctors, but there's also power in you know, I call it like citizen science, where we have had to become citizen scientists to try to learn about our bodies, because we're not getting answers in these spaces. We even like therapy, Western therapy, there is a form of masking that we can't really show up authentically, even in a space that's supposed to be called safe. So we have to create these spaces for ourselves, and not feel shame about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole thing, even with just long COVID, I mean, part of our check-in, because we hadn't seen each other for a while, we were supposed to prep for for today, but we just kind of roll with it. But you know, I have been struggling with something, you know, like first my husband had it, or nobody's testing positive for COVID. But you know, and you can't really figure out where it's coming from. You know, you start to feel like you know, something is off in your discernment of your own body, you know, because it started off for my husband in a rash. I wasn't sure if it was like, was he, you know, we were on vacation, was he getting too much sun, was it the ocean water, what is it? Or then the fatigue, and it's like just all sorts of, you know, things that just don't have any fully like symptoms of, but you're feeling not yourself. He felt like he was not himself, you know, like he felt like he was just not in his body. And it was similar for me, but you know, I think that's the other piece I think that we've talked a lot about is COVID, is this virus, and all the conversations that definitely are not happening about long COVID, and how it's taking its toll, not to mention, like the abruptness of it all, right? The abruptness of quarantine, the abruptness of coming out of quarantine. And you know, this rush to normalcy, none of the beautiful lessons that also came from COVID feel like they're sticking, of stuck. And like feeling like there's pieces of that moment that we actually cherish and want to be able to build on. Like, you know, people weren't coming up with really awesome alternative economies of exchange, right? Like solid, like just places, ways that people were trying to share skills and goods, right? Because people were losing work, or, you know, just other economies, right? To just the slowing things down, period. I mean, so anyhow, we've gone for a little bit longer, but thank you all for everybody who staying on with us. Thank you all for the contributions for the in the chat. I think is it Heather?
Yes.
And sorry for naming you, even though you had renamed yourself, but yes, on
Can I say something, or?
Yes.
Well, I use my voice. Yeah, thanks for creating the space. I'm Jamie's friend, who is also a disabled Pinay. There's just been so much, you know, our community, you know, I come from being a longtime organizer in the East Bay with like the Filipino community, from like being a teenager to becoming disabled now in my life. And it's been seeing our community really suffer, you know, physically and emotionally, you know, from the system that we live in. And the way it's just been so illuminated with COVID. You see all the cracks, the nurses who lost their lives, the nurses who are still losing their lives, the people who are the most vulnerable, and the lack of, you know, COVID mitigation and almost villainization, you know, of masking, taking any precautions, having access to tests that are accurate. You know, the rapids aren't accurate anymore because it keeps changing. And so, you know, I really appreciate you speaking on that. And And it, you know, I completely feel isolated. I can't go to things. So, you know, I like that this is online. Thank you so much. And, you know, bringing this to the forefront for our community, because it's been a back burner of burnout is almost like almost like a badge at one point. I felt, you know, as an organizer, like I did meetings every day. Like I did this and this, and you know, my body was falling apart. So I hope, you know, this brings so much to our community and to what's speaking to the times and the pain and the suffering that is not, this is not new. This pandemic is not new. It's happened in the past. Who is the most affected? You know, so yeah, it's just a different version. But yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Heather. And that resonates with me a lot, you know, especially you talking about being an organizer. And I think a lot of what I also bring into this space, you know, this is what Tricia Hersey doesn't actually talk about. Like, so if you've ever read Tricia Hersey's book, Wrestler's Resistance, or know about the NAP ministry, I think a lot of, you know, she talks about the hustle culture. So, right, that the culture of white settler, you know, capitalist, imperialist, white supremacist America, you know. But I think just speaking to this issue around kind of organizing, Heather, I think a lot of what I trying to bring to the space and what I hope people feel, I hope to hold space for people who do I identify in those ways. You know, it's, I think for people who kind of knew a little bit about Amato or myself, you know, we have these sort of community organizing activists, you know, kind of histories. And I think some people probably think it's unusual maybe that in part of my response to losing Amato and carrying on his legacy has actually been to support healing justice and healing work. And not just because it was me as bereaved mother, but really one of the things I got from Amato himself, even before he passed, is just he would name the ways he felt like organizers were not giving each other enough space to heal.
Yeah.
You know, that here you are, you come into organizing spaces oftentimes because you're looking for healing, right? So part of it is that you get introduced to ideas and the possibilities of changing the things that have hurt us. And then what ends up happening is that we, you know, we either feel compelled to extend so much of ourselves, or there are cultures that demand so much of ourselves, you know, and then you're also holding the collective trauma of our communities in these campaigns. There's so much. We're never given the space to process. We don't give ourselves that space to process. And then we end up even reproducing harms, the very supposed to try to address. And so I think, you know, that's another piece that I really appreciate you naming, kind of that, you know, that's part of your background. And that's definitely, I think, for me, why I also want to hold space for organizers. I want us to have a time to rest. I'm hoping to create new norms around rest, because we cannot do this work.
Yeah.
And we can't, you know, I mean, and I've seen it and I hear it and I see all the pain my friends are experiencing, like around Palestine and showing up in solidarity. People are also exhausted. And I'm like, I'm not sure that that's the best way to show up in solidarity if we are so depleted, we can no longer show up, you know?
I think a big part of it for the Palestine is it's activating. It's like these parts of ourselves that are the historical trauma that's like in our blood. You see so much pain, and there were no cameras when we had like the Philippine-Japanese war or a battle of, or on Death March, or any of those things, and it comes up and that's why we care so much. You hear about these atrocities and ongoing atrocities that happen now in the Philippines or here, and it is very much necessary to see that activism is a healing process, and that we are also victims to the systems that we are fighting against. I think there's often a martyrdom that I would seeing my peers, you know, and people in my life that I care about, you know, them getting sick, or just realizing that we are gonna live shorter, we're gonna have harder lives, and we're not distanced from it because we're doing the work. It's a very cyclical thing. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. It is very validating because I've been sitting with, please take care of yourselves. Let's do a yoga thing or something. But it's like work, 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 you know. But I think it's changing, especially with the newer generation that I'm seeing and witnessing, and them trying to see it as a holistic thing. This fighting against this is going to heal me at the same time, but I also recognize that need to integrate it in my life for sustainability.
Yeah. No.
Anyway, yeah, don't talk too much. It's already light.
No. And this is exactly what we hope, that the space that we facilitate and create, like what it can offer for us, is these opportunities for really conversations we're not ordinarily allowed to have, or that, you know, a place of non-judgment, a place where people feel held and seen. And so really, I really value that you sharing. And, you know, now we are 30 minutes past the intended, I think, time for this. I have no idea how the Niners are doing, whatever. You know, I grew up in the Bay with families supporting the Niners. But at any rate, thank you all for staying. And I'm really, really looking forward to being I'm sure I'm speaking for Jamie. We're excited about this. We can't wait to host space and be with like-minded Pinays and other folks. But thank you all. Bye. Thank you so much, Robyn. It was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Enjoy. Bye.
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 Bye, Charlene. Thank you. We'll talk, Rose. I'll text. Bye.